Hører ikke, Lina.
Are we live? Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome. As we wait for people to join us, I want to present the webinar. So welcome to this Insight in Colombia, where we will have a special guest, Sebastián Ruano, activist and social leader in Colombia. The main point of this webinar is to understand a little bit more what the situation is in Colombia. What is the status quo? What has happened during the protests since the 28th of April? Understand how Sebastián is working as a social leader in Colombia and how the social movements have been handling this situation, this critical situation that has cost us too many lives. The police violence has increased. The sexual violations against women has increased. The disappearances are mounting up in numbers. So this is a space where we get to know the real situation in Colombia, and for you listening and seeing us as a unique opportunity to ask questions, to participate in the conversation, and to directly speak to Sebastián so he can tell us from the ground, from the streets, from where the drums are sounding, from where the screams are coming. So welcome all. Larissa, I will give the microphone to you so you can say a little bit of what you want to say as LAG, the Latin American group in Norway.
Yes, thank you very much, Lina. Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, we have seen in the past few days, not few days, many days now, growing violence from the part of the police in Colombia against peaceful demonstrators in the streets. And we at LAG, we absolutely support those demonstrators, and we have been working here in Norway together with other organizations to demand that the Norwegian government and other Norwegian actors try to come and be a little bit more active in condemning the violent actions that have been going on in Colombia. We also want that Norway will use its place in the Security Council in the UN to bring up the problem of the violence in Colombia in an extraordinary session. We also want all these violent episodes to be thoroughly investigated, and we want action to come to that when those investigations are finished. And we want also to encourage other international actors that are watching us and following Norway. Norway is well known internationally for having an important place in defending human rights. So we would like to also ask all those other international actors to join us in bringing up this, putting up this situation in Colombia forth, bringing attention to that. This is not, this violence that's going on is not new. It didn't start today. It has been a very long history. We know that the police in Colombia has an incredible power, incredible, almost like a license to kill. And we know very importantly that the current president, Ivan Duque, he has been supporting the police in many cases, in many other cases. And as I said, when it comes to this particular government of Ivan Duque, this is not new either, because those demonstrations, they have been going on since 2019. The society has been rejecting continuously a project of society, which is not good for most people. Right now, what's going on is that people are rejecting tax reform where the government is trying to use it to pay debts and to pay the extra expenses that the government is having with the pandemic. However, he's putting the bill to be paid by most people, the middle class and the poor people, and people who before were exempt from paying taxes under this new reform that he was trying to push and force into people. It was those people now would have to pay, those who were previously exempt from tax. This is just one of the few examples of injustice and how unfair this tax reform is. And the police is on the loose in Colombia. It is basically, like I said, they have almost like a license to kill. President Duque is calling the demonstrators terrorists, but the ones who are using fire weapons, fire guns, it's the police, it's not the demonstrators, who have very little they can defend. And all this violence also shows how undemocratic the government of Ivan Duque is, because the people, like I said, they have been demonstrating since 2019. They have been going to the streets, rejecting all those things. So that means basically that Ivan Duque has had the opportunity to talk to people and talk to social leaders since 2019, and he rejects that. He wants to force this agenda. And that's why we say that we support Colombia. And one of the ways that we support Colombia, apart from, like I said, trying to do this work here with the government and other organizations in Norway, is also this kind of arrangement of program that we are having right now. And it's very, very important that when we talk about violence, it has to be clear that it is police violence, and it is Ivan Duque because the police answers to the president. So Ivan Duque also has the power to ask that to stop. So that's why we support Colombia, and we support the demonstrators in Colombia. And obviously, when we talk about violence, people are dying and people are getting hurt. But like Lina said, which is very important, Lina said something, it's sexual violence is raising, especially against women. This is, as usual, not something that we talk very much. We talk very often, the media talks about violence as if it was this homogeneous kind of violence, and it's not. And one of the invisible violences that happen is against indigenous women. Those one are the most invisible, they're the most vulnerable, they're nobody that really cares so much about them. Nobody in the bigger sense, of course, many activists and people care, but they are made invisible, and the crimes against them are made invisible as well. And therefore, we bring forth here a video of one such activist, indigenous activist, that she has gone through some violence. We're going to hear her report. And after this one video, we are also going to show a video of another of our activists in LAG. Her name is Solveig Norman, and she is an indigenous representative from our indigenous group up in the north of Norway. And so it's very important. I'd like just to stress that the information when it comes to places and dates and such things, things have been updated, and we're not going to make public the current and more updated information. This is a little bit older information, and to protect the ones involved in this case. So I'd like to thank you very much. After those videos, you're going to see the conversation between Lina and Sebastian, reporting directly from Colombia. Thank you very much.
Ingen lyd.
Our apologies, dear viewers. We're having some technical issues with the sound and the video. We are now currently fixing this and we'll present the video again. And as many of us know, there is no good meeting or webinar without technical issues. While we wait for this, yes, sound is on.
No nos hacen justicia y nos siguen atacando. Queridas hermanas activistas del mundo, soy Luisa Fernanda. Fui agredida por parte de la policía física, psicológica y sexualmente. Me trasladaron arbitrariamente desde Cali. He sido amenazada de ser separada de mi hijo y denuncio el hecho gritado. Necesito de su apoyo para ponerme a salvo a mí y a mi hijo. En esta lucha, a las mujeres de la minga indígena nos ignoran, no nos buscan, no nos hacen justicia y nos siguen atacando. Y nadie dice nada, por favor, denos voz a las mujeres indígenas.
Yes, this was the video we wanted to share with all of you viewers. Welcome everybody who is now joining us. We are live in this webinar arranged by Latin American groups in Norway. In this seminar, we will talk about what we just saw in this video. Colombia has been in a very critical situation since 28th of April. We have been manifesting and seeing protesters in the streets against a failed tax reform. But this situation goes way back than this. The video that you just saw shows what is happening with the community, social leaders, and especially young indigenous women who are part of one of the biggest movements leading the protests. In this webinar, we have our honor to be talking with another social leader, Sebastián Ruano, joining us from Colombia, Boyacá. My name is Lina Alvarez, and I am a social activist living in Norway from Colombia. Sebastián Ruano is also known as a social leader, political entrepreneur, and specializes in governmental and international issues. Sebastián, I welcome you to this conversation. It is great finally seeing you. How are you right now? We know you are in Colombia. We know you are in Boyacá, which is one of the biggest, most important symbolically and historically areas in Colombia, in our country. In this area, we fought against the Spanish for our independence. How are you personally? And tell us, to start with, how are things going in Boyacá?
Well, thank you everyone for having me. Thank you, Lina. It's a pleasure to know you. I don't know, you're hearing me? Yes.
Yes, we do. Perfect.
Yes. Well, yes, we are we in Colombia call Boyacá as the land of freedom, because we fight for our freedom here in Boyacá like 200 years ago. Right now, I'm exhausted. I'm tired because it have been 20 days stride of striking and go out and march and protest. And, you can get so tired, but not just for that, but because we're having this emotional, constant communication of bad things that is happening in the rest of the country. Every day there's a new person died, abused, or there's a massacre outside every house in this country. So yes, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard, but you cannot have empathy for the people outside or from the people is in other parts of the country. So we are protesting because of that.
As you said, the situation has been tiring. The massacres, disappearances, and violence has increased. And I agree with you. Colombians in Colombia and abroad are tired. There has been non-stop working from there and with us accompanying you from international entities and countries. I think we all agree this situation is severe. But as Larissa mentioned in the opening, this situation goes a little bit back. And I suspect that many of our viewers right now need to have a little bit of context, because we now know that we are in national strike and have been protesting in the streets since the 28th of April. We know that our people are being oppressed, but we also know that Colombia has been in a path of history with hope, and that hope has been taken away. I'm talking about
Yes.
the peace process and the peace agreement from 2016. Many of the Colombians and people abroad in general haven't heard much about Colombia since the peace agreement came. Could you very shortly show us the context from 2016 till today?
Yes, what is happening is that after the Colombian peace process, there was a change of government, democratic change of government. Now we came from President Juan Manuel Santos to President Ivan Duque. The thing is that the political party of the President Ivan Duque is like pro-war. They tried to kill, to murder, and to make everything worse, to at least harm the peace process. And everyone here in Colombia, I think at my age, I just celebrate my 27 years of beer, like some days ago. But we beer in the 90s, in the 19s, and there was a lot of crime and violence in Colombia in those years. Then we came in from 2000 to 2010 to an even most criminal state, like governmental violence, structural violence. And then we came to the Juan Manuel Santos government, that they show us like a bright little light of peace, and everyone of my generation uh, take a little taste of that peace. So we live that, and it was like a blind person that never saw in his life, and he get the opportunity to see from 1 minute. So we take that taste, and we think we will not stop fight for our right to have a peaceful life, to be in a country with rights, to be in a country with justice. And the last years of this government have been terrible. This government have killed and murdered the same amount of people
You're back. We hear you now.
Yeah. I was disconnected. I don't know.
Yes,
Just from which
you were
part?
disconnected, but you are back now. I think we got the part from Santos and the government now continuing to oppress, even though the peace agreement was signed.
I think
And the last 2 weeks have been really tough.
the last, and then in this government from 2018, we have been protesting from 2019, 2020, 2021. I was in the national strikes or the national protests in 2019 and 2020, and I actually went to the Congress, to the Senate, to talk about police brutality, to talk about justice, to talk about to stop the massacre here in Colombia, because in 2020 we have like 72 massacres of young people. You know, that's an equal amount of people. Just like in these 2 weeks have been murdered 20 persons. In these 2 weeks have been disappeared 600 persons, 600 people. And we are finding them murdered, and in rivers, like everyone that is disappeared, we think it's murder, actually, and have been tortured, and have been actually, the women at least have been abused. That's happening in Colombia. There's like 20. There was a girl some days ago that her name was Allison, and 4 cops abused her, and then she commits suicide because of that. You know, that's you cannot accept that.
We cannot accept that. And as you said, the situation is super critical. We are talking now with Sebastián Ruano about the situation in Colombia, ongoing since the 28th of April. You mentioned that we have been in a national strike. You also mentioned that we have marched in the streets and protested ever since 2019. What are the main reasons, or we know the reasons, but what has changed since the protests in 2019 and now? Could you tell us a little bit about the tax reform, for example, that fell through?
Yes. Okay. This protest starts by the tax reform, that it was going to take more money from poor people, and everyone gets enough of the government, actually. And it was not just that reform. There's a health reform and a civil reform. There was a lot of bad things that was decision of the government, that people went like, we cannot accept this anymore. So young people start with the protests, but now the old people are saying us like, you have the bravery that we don't have when we were young, and you are living that because we were not brave enough to face the government. But now everyone knows that the Colombian youth is brave, and is going to be brave to face this. But we are getting murdered. That's the truth. And of course we are scared. Of course we are scared. Nobody can say anything that is against that. We are scared. But what can we lose? We have no future. We have no possibilities. We have no education. We have no care. We have no health. We have no land. What can we lose? We cannot lose nothing. We are trying. I know that everyone here is trying and is doing the best to make like the peaceful process and the peaceful protests, but the structural violence top should down, from government, is the one that is generating the violence, the true violence.
That is correct, Sebastian. both in Colombia and as a movement as well in Norway, we have been following the situation very carefully, with attention. And as I mentioned in the beginning, there are many Colombian amongst us, me included, that have been working nonstop to put pressure from the Norwegian governments, the NGOs, the Norwegian embassy, or the Colombian embassy in Norway. We are with you, and that is very important for me to say straight away. We are by your side, and we are accompanying you in this fight. When you resist, we resist. So watching you and listening to you saying that we are done, we are tired, and this needs to stop, this oppression, this violence, this needs to stop, and we are tired. Continuing on, the protests and national strikes have been led by social movements. Could you tell us a little bit about who are the social movements, and how are you working in your community towards the path forward?
The thing is that this process and these movements have been so organic. I mean, they have been coming from so different backgrounds that there's pretty difficult to just like identify just one, you know. There's like the transport I don't sector, the sector of, from agriculture, the youth, the teachers, I don't know, like the working class. Everyone have their own agenda, their own political agenda, their own demands. So it's pretty hard to say like the Colombian social movements are just one or two or three or 10. I think maybe could be like 10,000 or 20,000. So it's pretty hard to be organized. And we are trying to organize ourselves, of course. There's like a national protest, like table of representatives, but a lot of people are saying that they don't represent my ideas and they cannot negotiate with the government. Some people went like some days ago to the house, the Casa de Nariño, that is the presidential house, with the president, but we cannot negotiate. I mean, we are not going to stop until the violence and the murderers and the disappeared and the abuse stop. There's nothing to negotiate because 60 people have been murdered. We need that someone takes the responsibility and pay for those murders, for those lives. Where are every person that is disappeared? We cannot negotiate. There's a no return point. We are in the point of no return, actually. We are in the point of no return because or you get the responsibility of your acts as a government or as a defense ministry, or we are not going to stop. I think that's going to happen, actually.
Forgot to unmute myself. Within this movement, as you said, we have been spread. There are many social movements, but in my impression, well, I'm not there, but here getting all the information from all over, there are mainly three very important social movements. One, the youth, the young movement. It is very clear to us that it is the young social leaders, you guys, standing in the front lines and leading the way, negotiating, screaming, anything you are doing, that is the young people. Secondly, La Minga, the indigenous people, supporting and backing up in all their way and networks to protect the protesters and the marches. And then you have the women's movement, We, as feminists, always say there is no revolution without us. And the women are also in the front lines, offering the support, offering the space to talk and negotiate, but put in the agenda that our bodies as women is being used as a gunpoint. This is no news to us. This has happened in the course of our history in the country. You talked a little bit about the demands that comes from the social movements, and that is not only the social movements leading the way. Now it's everybody. Mostly every Colombian has been either participated or supported the protests. And recent numbers show that the majority of the Colombian people are supporting the movement. And I also want to mention that the last thing you said about the time is now really is giving me hope. And I also think that for many of the Colombians abroad and the people who are supporting Friends of Colombia, followers, other Latin American countries and habitants are supporting this and leading the way. But the demands come from all over. So I really want to ask you short for us to all understand, what are the concrete demands in a broader sense? What are we asking for?
Okay, I think one of the first and most important things that we are asking for is the peace process. What we agree as a whole nation in the peace process, we say the government, please make it real, because they take all the money from the peace process to make his own, to use it, not for the peace, but for themselves. They are ending the peace. They are creating violence because that's the only way that they can govern. I'm completely sure that the actual government will burn the country to govern the ashes. You know, they don't care about us. They don't care about us. But we will never stop. The time is really now. Everyone is with us. Every person, the oldest and the youngest. And we inherit a terrible country. That's the truth. I love my country. I really love my country. I was there in Norway I think some years ago, talking about my country and in other countries in the world that I have been. And I have pride of my country. But we inherit a terrible situation, and we will not inherit that same country to our kids. We will fight until the end. I think everyone is like getting a sense of life, like we can sacrifice everything, actually. And we know that is pretty dangerous. Everyone here knows that. I'm getting moved from some houses to another houses because I'm not going to put my own family in risk.
That is correct, Sebastian, as you said, it is a very
And you cannot
dangerous.
Yeah, of course it's dangerous, but my family was violently, how do you say that, displaced when I was a kid for the violence in the country. My father was murdered when he was my age, 27 years old. He was a kid. 27 years old is nothing. We live our whole life in violence. What can we lose? We can win a whole country, a whole future. We have hope and bravery. Yes. And what else we can ask for the government? We are asking to have a democratic change of power in 2022. I'm a Democrat. I am a Democrat. We don't want to change from right to left like there's no elections. I mean, you know, we need elections. We want to conserve our right of voting, to go out and do our job as citizens, you know. We need more opportunity to young people, because the most of the people, I mean, I'm a privileged one. I am I have really privileged. I have the right to get to a university and to travel, but I don't, you know, representing the country. But I have seen in other cultures, and I know that that in our country the youth and the young people is getting nothing for their lives. Nobody here lives in happiness. Nobody here lives in opportunities or has any opportunities. They at least they know the capital of the country, but it's nothing. We need education, we need health, we need future, and we have hope. That's it.
It sounds very easy. We are demanding the fundamental human rights. We are demanding to live in a society and in a country where we don't get persecuted, where we don't get raped, where we have free access to education, or at least access to any education, to health care. And the situation in Colombia right now is so critical, and things are happening so fast. In the last 2 days, we saw that another big pride for Colombians, the football, the soccer, the Copa America was moved to Argentina. This, for me, is a win for the protesters, because we could not allow the president to arrange a Latin America soccer match or league while this is happening in our country. So for me, that was a big win. But I wanted to talk to you on another specific topic, and that is the vice president. The vice president recently resigned or changed her role from vice president to Minister of Foreign Affairs. Now, that we need to talk a little bit about, because it seems to me that the Colombian government now are changing strategies and still covering up the real situation and human rights situation in Colombia. Correct me if I'm wrong, also turning heads to the real situation and explaining to the world that we are a democratic country, that we are free, that nobody is oppressed, that the people, the protesters, he calls us terrorists, vandalism. So the strategies from the government right now is changing. How are you viewing this in that change of strategy? Because our vice president, I assume, was going to run for president next. And as we have seen, it goes from within the same elitist, very dangerous movement in Colombia. So how is that going to change the situation in the country with the strategy? How are your thoughts on this?
Do you hear me? Because I lost. Yes, do you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
What is happening with the government? And this starts in 2018. You know, I was in the United Nations in Switzerland in 2018 when it was the change from President Santos to President Duque. And we start to see what they are trying to show to the world that is happening in Colombia. Nothing. For them, in Colombia is a peaceful place where everyone lives like someone lives in Europe, you know? The thing is that this government have commit a lot of errors, a lot. I mean, the last Minister of Foreign Affairs, that she was called Claudia Blum, she never do anything for the country. I mean, she never say anything to any country about what is happening here. The Ministry of Defense is attacking us. The Minister of Taxes, I don't know how to say in English, the Ministry of Taxes are incrementing the taxes to the poor people. I mean, everything is working wrong. Yes. So there's anything that they actually can do to reestablish the image to the people outside and inside Colombia. There's anything they can do. So the thing that the vice president take the or begins to be the new foreign affairs minister is just like how do you say that? I don't remember. Debilidad, Lina. Do you remember that?
Debilidad, their flaws, their weaknesses.
Weaknesses. Yes, that show weaknesses because she was the only one. The vice president, she was the only one that could actually like fight for to be the next president, maybe in the far right. So she decided to become the foreign affairs minister, and that show us that they are weak. Actually, they know that they are going to lose the next elections in 2022, but that's not happy. I mean, that's not just like good news because I think that probably we're going to have a coup d'état, like golpe de estado. Like,
golpe de estado.
sí.
That is an important. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, coup.
They're going coup d'état, like they're going to take the power by violence, and I think the military forces are going to take the power in Colombia because they're not going to just get out of the power. I mean, they're going to make violence. And I think that in less than a year, there's going to be a terrible civil war in Colombia. I hope no. I actually hope that's never happened. I hope that I'm wrong. But I think that's going to happen. They are not going to accept to be out of the power again.
And you also mentioned that the time is now when the people are not holding back. In Spanish, we say, el paro no para. The strike is not coming. This is going until we get our demands. This is something that for me is new because I am 31 years old. I have, as you mentioned earlier, never lived in a peaceful Colombia. I have seen we have been part of that rough history that was inherited to us. But now something has changed, and that is from my opinion. I haven't seen this type of movements before. Protesters, plenty. Marches, count how many you want. But the resilience in this moment right now in Colombia has changed, and it has shown me that, or at least given me a sense of light or hope that this is the change that we need. That is, we also see the hashtag, the time is now. Es ahora o nunca. We have elections next year, and you talked a little bit about this. Tell me a little bit about that, because me personally, I am a little bit worried about the corruptions during the
around the elections.
There the elections, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what is happening with the next elections? I think it's critical because the next year we elect our Congress, the law and the chambers, sorry, the low chamber and the high chamber, that is Senate and representatives. And then we are going to elect the next president, I hope. Um, there's a left candidate that is called Gustavo Petro that have have been the, I think that the most significant opposition leader to this, to the actual government and to the last governments, and he is getting a lot of support. I think that a country is never going to be fixed by just one person. I mean, that's impossible. Yes, we, and I say that to everyone. Not just one person is going to change the country. We have to change us all together. And I think he's going to be the next president, actually. And but there's a lot of force and money because the elections here in Colombia are commanded by money because they pay people to vote for some guy, and it doesn't matter who is it. And that's the way that the far right is always winning the elections, or with corruption in the in the day, the election day. They start to remark votes, repeating votes, or count more votes that what they actually have, and that's happening and happening and happening. But if the far right wins the next election, I think the whole country are going to explode.
Mm.
I think the whole country is going to go on civil war.
All right. Well, we are worried, and what worries me especially is it's not only the corruption in the streets where you can buy your votes. With the last election, we saw that people were buying votes with tamales. They were giving
Yeah,
away in the streets. But that's not the big picture for me. The big picture is the other foreigner firms administrating the software of the election.
yeah,
So this is a situation where we all, and you viewers, need to be very attentive of. We need to follow up on that and make sure that the elections are run freely, democratically, without
yeah.
any oppression.
I think that's have to be the work of the youth,
Yeah.
actually. I think that we as youth that went out all these days, and we are going to go out the rest of the days that we have to be the ones controlling what is happening in the voting day, in the day of the elections. That's our job. I think
Yes.
no one can do that. Actually, usually, and I was a candidate to be a mayor in 2019. I didn't won. I lost for 90 votes. We as youth have to take care of what is happening the day of the election, and just
Yes.
that's our job. Normally, are the political parties that they have like representatives in each election table, but now I think we have to do it as a youth voluntary, or I think obligatory job.
Yes. Thank you for this. We will continue to follow the situation very carefully. As of now, we have talked about what is happening right now in the situation, the status quo of the country. We have talked a little bit about the context and the history that has been leading us to where we are today, our path forward, the glimpse of hope, and how the movements, such as the youth, the worker unions, the feminist movements, the indigenous movement, La Minga, they're all leading the way. We have been seeing the frontliners pushing back against the government to have and continue to be peaceful in their protest. And we also talked a little bit about the politics around this, the government and the presidential and the elections moving forward. There are two questions that have arrived, Sebastian, that I would want to ask you quickly. One of them is, there cannot be dialogues while there is violence acts. by the police and the army. Do you agree?
Well, of course, we cannot dialogue with the people that is murdering us. I mean, murdering us. Sorry, we cannot dialogue with them. I mean, I am a peaceful man, but I'm not going to dialogue to have a dialogue or a conversation or a negotiation with someone that is getting a weapon and trying to shoot me in the face. I mean, that's not the way, you know. And everyone in the negotiation tables along the country is getting. I'm not going to negotiate until you stop killing and murdering our people, because they are murdering us. You cannot make a dialogue with them. How? I mean, how can you dialogue with someone like that?
But then again, we also are witnesses that the dialogue has come within the communities, within the nearest municipalities, the cities. We are seeing a unity from the movement that is crucial, and let's follow up on that as well. How are the dialogues going? Another question we have received is regarding the structural reforms. Do you think structural reforms are required?
I think it's more complicated than that. I don't think that we need any reform in any sense, actually. I think our constitution is a pretty good constitution. The thing is that it's never getting like adopted, you know? There's a beautiful, our country is led by a beautiful constitution, but nobody is how do you say cumpliendo?
Understand?
No,
Oh,
cumpliendo.
cumpliendo. Delivering or
Deliver.
yeah.
Yes, like nobody is delivering the. No. Is
No.
behaving
Yes.
along with the constitution. You know. So we don't need to change that. We need the people to stop making things wrong, because there's anywhere in the police like law or code. There's nothing that says in the police code that you can kill people. I mean, no, you can't. You can't. You're just a police. You cannot kill people because they are marching or protesting. But they are doing that. So you should just take law and do it. I mean, I don't remember how do you say cumpliendo.
It is fulfilling, I think.
Fulfilling. Yes.
Following.
Following up, yeah.
Following up the law.
Following.
We don't need to change the thing that is writing or in the constitution. We need people to follow the law, and that's come from government and from us, of course. There's nothing in the constitution that says you can take all the money from the old hospitals. No, of course, there's nothing in never is going to say that in a constitution or in any law. But people, so they're eating corruption.
I think we lost you a little bit in the end here. Well, as I said, we have no good webinar without tech issues.
Governed by corruption.
Yes, we were talking that the government cannot continuing to oppress and needs to fulfill the constitution, our rights. Sebastian, time is running out. Unluckily, we have so many more things to talk about. We have received one last question, but we unfortunately don't have time to take that. It was regarding the vice presidency and foreign affairs. But I really want to end this conversation saying that I hope this is not the last conversation, that we in the diaspora continue to be in touch with you guys and keep this exercise of open space of education. We are teaching each other and working together and understanding how, of course, mainly how we as international movements and Colombians abroad, Friends of Colombia, can support. So I hope this is not the last conversation we have. Thank you so much for participating and even showing face and standing here with us, explaining to us how the situation is looking now and how we can move forward together. We started this meeting, dear viewers, with seeing a video from a case showing the reality of the situation in Colombia. The gender violence is increasing, and the sexual violence and oppression and persecution against indigenous young women are critical. And this is where we need to take a stand as well as an international community. LAG, the Latin American groups in Norway, have been standing non-stop, following up not only this case, but the indigenous representation across country and across continent. We hope that you viewers continue to support LAG and follow the information, get informed, support us by social media, take your stand. You have now seen and understood a bit better, we hope, what the situation is looking like. So please continue to share and get informed. I know you can follow Latin America groups in Norway, Oslo, and you can follow Frede Colombia, which is this organization supporting the peace process in Colombia. So we see you soon, I hope. And Sebastian, we wish you all the luck. Before we take the final goodbye, we want to revisit the situation I was explaining regarding the sexual violence against indigenous women, young women. We will now show again the video that we started and then another video of a colleague explaining the situation. Sebastian, really quickly, we are over time, of course, last words, and then we will show the videos.
Okay, my last words, and it's something that has to be with one of the questions. Yes, we are governed by mafia, by narcos, and anyone that is consuming any like cocaine or something like that, they are financing the murderers of our people. First of all, that, and second, we are not going to lose hope. We are going to fight until the end. And I think I am very proud of my generation. I'm very, very proud of my generation. I love my generation of brave women and men. And we're not going to stop until we change this country. It doesn't matter what happens. And I think that we are going to see each other again.
Thank you, Sebastián. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
Okay.
Finishing
Yes,
up,
right.
let us see the last two videos that we have. The one in a severe situation and then another one explaining. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you soon.
Queridas hermanas activistas del mundo, soy Luisa Fernanda. Fui agredida por parte de la policía física, psicológica y sexualmente. Me trasladaron arbitrariamente desde Cali. He sido amenazada de ser separada de mi hijo y denuncio el hecho solicitado. Necesito de su apoyo para ponerme a salvo a mí y a mi hijo. En esta lucha, a las mujeres de la minga indígena nos ignoran, no nos buscan, no nos hacen justicia y nos siguen atacando. Y nadie dice nada, por favor, denos voz a las mujeres indígenas.
Hola colegas, mi nombre es Ulbein Norman, represento a un grupo de LAC Buda, Urfolk Gruppe, un grupo de migrantes indígenas. Bueno, les hablaré un poco de la situación o el caso Luisa Fernanda. Le vamos a poner así, no vamos a agregar los apellidos por seguridad de la misma. Luisa Fernanda, una joven indígena menor de edad, madre de un niño pequeño, es indígena camecha del Putumayo. Se quedó de ver con otros jóvenes indígenas que estaban en Cali, en Puerto Resistencia, donde se concentraban todos los indígenas que habían propuesto concentrarse ahí. Vamos a ponerle a Puerto Resistencia punto A y pusieron un punto de encuentro en caso de que pasara lo que estaba pasando en otros espacios de Colombia donde se estaban manifestando, que llegara la policía. Entonces le vamos a poner al Parque República de Israel punto B. Para llegar del punto A al punto B hay 3 vías: carrera 44, carrera 45 y carrera 46. Es importante que se los mencione por lo que viene después. La compañera no la encontrábamos, su madre se comunicó con nosotros el día 6 a las 3 de la mañana y nos dice que su hija no llegó. Allá la madre de ella se encuentra en Noruega pidiendo asilo y está en este proceso que es muy diferente a los sucesos del momento. Sería imposible que ella no llegara, así que nos contactamos, tranquilizamos un poco la madre, nos contactamos con activistas que eran de nuestro conocimiento y de la red de activistas indígenas y les manifiesto que la compañera no aparece. Entonces las compañeras se ponen en acción. Contactamos al grupo de buscadoras de desaparecidos indígenas. Es un grupo de mujeres indígenas para agilizar el proceso. Las compañeras determinan que, viendo que no había posibilidades de encontrarla, se recorren caminando del punto A al punto B, las 3 vías que le mencioné antes. Se fueron preguntando, la gente manifiesta que sí, efectivamente, había una patrulla que las había subido y que ella gritaba: soy Luisa Fernanda, me están subiendo a la patrulla. Entonces estas compañeras le pregunta si miraron el número de la placa, la vecina de enfrente dice que ella lo miró, así que teníamos el número de la placa, teníamos que efectivamente ella la había subido, así que se optó por ir a la estación de la policía que estaba enseguida y se dan cuenta que la patrulla que decía era una patrulla que se había llevado a varias personas al Putumayo, ya que sus identificaciones escolares o de identidad decían que eran del Putumayo, así que los trasladó para allá. Con esto no contábamos, pero lo hicieron. Cuando se llegó al Putumayo, me contacté a las compañeras activistas del Putumayo, a las buscadoras indígenas del Putumayo, y les dije que en alguna estación del Putumayo estaban y le encontraron la estación. Omito decir el nombre por seguridad igual. Se encuentra la estación. Esta estación la encuentran hasta el día 14. Nosotros nos enteramos que el día 12 había sido el traslado, o que el día 12 nos enteramos que habían sido trasladados, el 14 encontramos la estación de policía donde fueron trasladados. El día 15 y 16 era sábado y domingo. Entonces contactamos al padrastro de ella para que fuera, porque no se le iban a entregar a nadie, para que fuera él el 17. Él fue el 17 muy temprano, muy temprano, la saca y se asegura que está en una casa de seguridad donde ya se había activado un protocolo de seguridad para mantenerla a ella. Ella está en la casa de seguridad ahora. Nos percatamos a todos los estudios que se le hicieron, a todos los estudios médicos, al peritaje y todo, que ella fue en el trayecto de Cali al Putumayo, fue violada, abusada física, psicológicamente y sexualmente. Entonces estamos en un caso que se repitió en varias partes, Pero claro, cuando son casos de mujeres indígenas, son invisibilizados estos casos. No adquirimos este carácter de personas importantes. Entonces, como todo el tiempo, nos criminalizan, nos invisibilizan. Entonces, les pido, compañeras y compañeras, que seamos la voz de estos indígenas, de estas mujeres indígenas. Nos sentimos como muy contentos y orgullosos de haber dado seguimiento, de haberla encontrado con vida, de haber accionado inmediatamente. Muchas gracias.
That was it. Thank you, Solveig, so much for that strong message. We will follow up together. Have a great evening, everybody, and thank you, Lag, for arranging this and creating this space for both Solveig, Sebastian, and Luisa. Follow the situation furthermore, as mentioned, in the social media accounts with Sebastian, with Lag, with Stöttegruppen i Fred i Colombia. Have a great day and good luck.
Could it be possible to say something to Sebastian, Lena, in Spanish?
Muchas gracias a ti, Sebastián, por participar y estar con nosotros en este espacio.
Quería
que
decir
seguimos.
yo en español, quería decirte a ti,
Ah.
Sebastián, de todo corazón, de corazón. Estamos acá, pero es como que estuviéramos ahí. Es admirable, admirable. Si hay alguien personas como vos tendrían que haber muchas en el mundo. Así que seguí la lucha, sabes que nosotros lo que podamos hacer lo vamos a hacer.
Yo sé y les agradezco mucho que estén muy pendientes. Yo lo sé. Yo sé que hay mucha gente muy buena en todas partes que apoya este tipo de cosas y que tranquilos que vamos a ganar. Vamos a ganar nosotros.
Vamos para esa.